Hi guys, so this video is probably the one video in the course that you probably need to watch multiple times. In fact, you should watch all of them multiple times, but this one is for sure. When you go into the OSCEs, it is likely that some of them are going to go poorly. As you've seen on the January 24 stats, 50% of pre-regis failed the OSCE. Well, 49% failed it. That means that they didn't score enough on either on the points or they didn't pass enough of the stations. The chances of you passing all the stations are practically zero, and the chances of you failing all of the stations are practically zero. What you do need to do is look at the station in your 1 minute, understand it, do your best in the 5 minutes that you have, and as you walk out of the door from that station, forget what has happened. And I cannot stress this enough. You have to forget what went right, what went well, what you could have done better, what you could have done worse. Did you pass it? Did you fail it? All of those things will make no difference as you move on to the next station. When you move on to the next station, you should be treating that as the first station that you're doing. I think that's probably the best way that you can try and handle it. So each station that you do, it's your first station. What happened in the past and what's going to happen in the future is of no consequence. All that is important is reading it in your first minute, making a plan in your head of how you're going to tackle the station, and then doing your best in that 5 minutes that you have. Everything else is for afterwards. So I cannot help but think that a number of pre-regis who are getting sort of 7, 8, 9 of them cleared, what's happening is that they're focusing on one or two of the ones that have gone wrong, and then that's causing them to mess up another couple as well. Whereas if they'd been able to reset their minds, stop thinking about it, and literally just move forwards, they may well have passed it. And nobody can predict your performance on the day. But I think facing each one as a separate challenge and doing your best without thinking about any of the other things can only be helpful. So I hope you find this little bit of advice useful. And I fully appreciate it's difficult. If you have a real nightmare in one of the OSCEs, you will then be thinking about it for potentially 1 or 2 more stations. What you should have learnt in the stage 2 is that if your routine went poorly, if you gave up, you then ended up failing your contact lens station as well, when you probably should have failed it because you were looking back. But with the OSCE, that effect is multiplied because you have so many assessments. And yes, they're short, but they all count. But you don't need to pass every single one. And also, you can't be certain if one of those was on a knife edge, whether it was a borderline pass or a borderline fail. And therefore, thinking about it while you're doing the next station is going to provide no benefit to you in that station. Therefore, you are far better to just ignore it. Once you come out of the OSCE and you've completed it, and then you're thinking about it and going over it in your head, etc., that's totally fine. But when you're in the OSCE, each station, you've got to fully focus on that station that's at hand. Things that, that can go wrong are, I spoke to a pre-reg who, in the indirect ophthalmoscopy station, which comes up every single time, they did the wrong eye. And so they scored a 0 on it. But they knew that, and they also knew that it wasn't going to change when they walked out of the door. That assessment score was set in stone, and therefore all they can do is move on and focus on what's coming next. So I hope that's helpful.